Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Grand Historian's Corner. My name is Prophet Frank John Sforza, past master of Lyre Grotto, the founder and the currently a trustee, marshal of the Empire State Grotto Association, Supreme Council District Deputy for Southern New Jersey over Simba Grotto, and Grand Historian of Grottos International. And I have the pleasure of being a three-time past master of South Shore Long Beach Lodge in Rockville Center, New York, which is part of the Grand Lodge of New York. I'm also a past master of Limbrook Massapequa Lodge, number 822, also in Rockville Center, New York. I am currently the Royal Arch Captain of Freeport, Long Island, Chapter number 302, Royal Arch Masons in Baldwin, New York. I am a member of North Shore Council Royal and Select Masters in Oyster Bay, number 88. I am the Deputy Master of Suffolk Council, number 76, Royal and Select Masters in Sayville, New York. I'm a member of Trinity Commandery in Astoria, Queens. I am currently the warder of the Nassau Commandery in Oyster Bay, New York. I am a member of a few invitational and other bodies, including the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, where I'm currently sitting as I'm the Most Wise Master in my second term. I'm actually doing the 19th degree tomorrow and the 18th degree in April. So we have quite a bit coming up. Not to mention the Feast of the Paschal Lamb coming up. Lots of great things coming up on my trestle board there. I'm also a member of Kismet Shriners here in Massapequa, and funny enough, I'm not as active there, but it's right there in my hometown where I'm currently living. I was asked by Prophet Matthew Fisher from Texas, one of my good friends. I wish we lived closer so we could spend more time together, to share my paper that we had done when I was on the Superiore podcast. And I wanted to share that with you today, so that's going to be my edition of Grand Historian's Corner today, so I'd like to dive right in. Al-Mulkana, the Veiled Prophet, bears also the name Hakem ben Hashem, and according to Persian records, lived sometime between the 7th and 8th centuries during the government of the caliphs, meaning successors, and applied to the several heads of the Mohammedan or Islamic states. Exploration of the historical narrative surrounding the Grotto organization necessitates a comprehensive understanding of its emblematic figure, the Mulkana, and its historical counterpart. The emblem of the Grotto is based on an enigmatic figure of the 8th century known as Al-Mulkana, whose title translates from Arabic as the Veiled One. Al-Mulkanas espoused the radical teachings of Abu Muslim of Khorasan. Following Abu Muslim's tragic demise, Al-Mulkana established a religious sect based on the notion that Abu was a reincarnation of the divine, and upon his passing, this divine mantle was passed on to Al-Mulkana. This earned Al-Mulkana the antipathy of more conventional religious adherents. Al-Mulkana hid his face behind a veil, ostensibly to conceal the splendor and magnificence of his countenance from his fervent disciples. Al-Mulkana and his followers mounted a rebellion, but their rebellion failed, and the authorities orchestrated his death within the confines of his own home. Other fraternal societies also inspired by the story were the Veiled Prophet Society and the dramatic order Knights of Khorasan, which is an offshoot of the Knights of Pythias. Becoming a rebel as well as a dissenter from the faith of Islam, he raised the standard of a religious revolution in the city of Meru, or Merv, the capital city of the Persian province of Khorasan. There he gathered around him many of the discontented, to whom the despotic rule of the caliphs had become unbearable. Some authorities give the name of the prophet Al-Mulkana, the Veiled One, as Al-Hakim Ibn Otto, and the date of his activity is about the year 760. His prophecies were always uttered from behind a veil, hence the term applied to him. The choice of emblem and ritual of the grotto is based on an 1817 poem by Thomas More titled Lalla Rookh. The novella features the eponymous Lalla Rookh, who embarks on a journey to wed a distant prince she has never met and meets a traveling storyteller who tells the princess several fanciful stories. In the novella, the story of the veiled prophet of Coruscant is told. The contemporary ritual of the grotto organization loosely draws inspiration from Moore's narrative, but with distinct Masonic embellishments along the way. It is imperative to acknowledge that each grotto may impart its unique interpretation of that story. Thomas More used this character in a poem interesting on account of the details regarding Al-Mulkana, as well as for the mention of places and persons whose titles were borrowed with profit in the naming of the grottos. There is also the curious coincidence that just as the grotto is indebted to the poet Moore, so did Brother Fleming get inspiration for the Shriners from Francis S. South's book Honey and Gall. In the case of the grotto, the poem by Moore was not the source of inspiration which produced the ritual and evolved the peculiar characteristics which distinguish our mystic order. It was not until long after the fundamental lines of the structure had been established that the order came in contact with the poem, and then only incidentally through the selection of the new name, and when the Supreme Council was organized, the name Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm was finally chosen, because of the enchantment of good fellowship which the members had found within the mystical realm of the order. It was also the determination of the members, as expressed by Commodore W.C. Eaton, that the order should be the most secret of secret fraternal orders. It was to be veiled, and the Mulkana of the poem was adopted as the mask or veil of secrecy which the order was originally supposed to wear before the profane world. Thus, the Al-Mulkana of the poem is not indicative of the sublime ideals taught by the mystic order. He is only the veil, and the usage of Persian names by grottos simply fringes the veil with the peculiar charm of mysticism and imagery associated with all that comes from the mysterious Far East. The real Mulkana of the prophets dwells in the hearts of the faithful, and is so opposite in character to the false Mulkana of the poem that he is known only to those who have looked behind the veil and beheld the enchanted realm. The usage of the veil is a nod to Royal Archmasonry. Dr. Orrin Root of Hamilton College gave at an early meeting of the Supreme Council a response to a toast discussing the whys of the organization. From this, we take the following. Freemasonry deals with manhood, square and upright. It is practical and earnest. Speculative minds have built upon the practical tenets of Freemasonry's extended systems, having multiple and often complicated meanings. Others, fully realizing that life is real, life is earnest, have felt that the real would be no less real, the earnestness no less strong, if there came the warmth of humor, the gleam of wit, and the glow of sympathy, the passion of good fellowship. We need sunshine in life as well as in the air. Mystical Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm was founded in the summer of 1889 by Leroy Fairchild and other members of Hamilton Lodge No. 120 in Hamilton, New York, while planning a Royal Arch degree. Master Masons Good and True of Hamilton Lodge No. 120, averse to trespassing upon the dignified earnestness of the lodge, yet feeling the need and value of closer, warmer, fraternal communion, felt the need, after the lodge was closed, to pursue social intercourse, in the flowing humor and sparkling wit, in joke and in song. They entered an enchanted realm, and by they became its prophets. To perpetuate what gave them pleasure, and, as true warm souls are generous, to widen the scope of it, they organized. As they were Freemasons, they limited its membership boundary to the Masonic fraternity, though it makes no claim to be true craft Freemasonry. So the order became mystic in its subtle lessons and in its form, veiled, because no heart, no human heart, stands all revealed of the enchanted realm, because who does not know how duties wear and sorrows burden in any unenchanted realm? If rites are framed to teach higher speculative tenets, and we honor them, so too may rites well be framed to gather and scatter the warm-hearted sunshine of life and good fellowship. The grand alchemist of the universe has tested it thoroughly. It is elixir. The grotto is an offshoot, an offspring of an entirely local enterprise for stronger sociability among brethren of Hamilton Lodge number 120, free and accepted Masons of Hamilton, New York. Obviously, the very informality of a group of this kind did not tend to the regular keeping of complete records from the very beginning, but any uncertainty later about the facts was met by the very favorable circumstance that several of the first founding members long continued their activities in the grotto, Brother Sidney D. Smith of Hamilton becoming Grand Secretary, as well as the first historian, preparing in 1902 an account of the order. For a few years prior to 1889, Brother Leroy Fairchild and Brethren of Hamilton Lodge, who originally met simply to plan a Holy Royal Arch degree, had often met in jovial fellowship of fun and frolic. Their lively social relations, sometimes mischievous but never mean, resulted in the summer of 1889 in the working out of an initiatory scheme promising a rich fund of enjoyment. This project for future pleasure received so warm a welcome that a more permanent and formal organization seemed necessary. On the evening of September 10th, 1889, there was an organizational meeting held in the Masonic Hall at Hamilton of the following brethren: Leroy Fairchild, George Beale, Sidney D. Smith, T.H. Beale, W.M. West, J.W. Clark, U.C. Van Vleck, B.J. Stimson, Adnan Smith, H.S. Gardner, C.J. Griswold, Robert Pattison, A.M. Russell, John A. Holgram, John F. Howe, G.G. Waldron, and Edwin L. Peet. At this first meeting, the following officers were elected: Leroy Fairchild, King Devil; B.J. Stimson, Chief Justice; George Beale, W. D. Clark; and T.H. Beale, elected officers; and Sidney D. Smith, Secretary. While the organization developed later on into the mystic order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm, there was at the start nothing more in the minds of the members than an entirely local affair. Of this we are assured by the name. The brethren chose for the title of the new institution the Fairchild Deviltry Committee, and the presiding officer was called the King Devil. Membership in the organization was decided at this first meeting to be confined exclusively to Master Masons in good standing. Thus the order then came, and since has stood in the same relation to the lodge as the shrine does to the commandery or to the Scottish Rite. Brothers R. Riddell and H. B. Tompkins were proposed as the first candidates, and a date was set for their initiation. The ceremony took place and proved a great success. A ritual for the occasion had been written by Brothers George Beale and Adnan N. Smith. This work evoked warm praise at the first rendition, and a ritual committee comprising Brothers R. Riddell, George Beale, A. N. Smith, Leroy Fairchild, T. H. Beale, and W. M. West were appointed to revise and further perfect the ceremonial. Grand Secretary Smith accords to Prophets R. Riddell and George Beale the credit for successfully working out the revision. Brother Riddell brought ideal qualifications to the task, brilliantly embellishing the revised work with fanciful and sparking gems of ritual, and inspiring much of the showy dash, urge, and glitter. His greatest contribution to the ceremonies came through the suggestion that the characters in the drama be given mythological names. This idea was adopted and worked out splendidly, though there was little, if anything, of classical mythology in the actual drama. Prophet George Beale was the author of the first ritual and received valuable assistance from Prophet Riddell and others in working out the first revision, but all the later work was done by Beale alone. The pioneer labor of Prophet Beale withstood the test of time. None of the changes since made in the ritual has disturbed the main lines laid down by him. The services of Prophet Beale were originally recognized by the Supreme Council at the annual session held in June 1917 at Washington, D.C., when a suitable resolution was unanimously adopted and a committee comprising past Grand Monarchs Charles E. Lansing, Hiram D. Rogers, and J.F. McGregory were appointed to have it engrossed and presented. The following quotation from this testimonial shows the appreciation of the Supreme Council. Resolved, that the Supreme Council, in conjunction with all veiled prophets of the realm, do assure our worthy and esteemed Prophet George Beale of our appreciation of his work as Committee on Ritual, embracing as it does all the essential and beautiful effects of our order, the promulgation of which has been a potent factor and conducive to the advancement and upbuilding of the order. The statement has been made that the grotto was founded on chapter 24 of the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, but this inference is incorrect, and an inspection of the original ritual will disclose. A copy of the initial ritual work, as well as every revised edition, was preserved in the safe of the Grand Secretary, and nearly all were in the handwriting of Prophet George Beale, who never saw or read the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Further, the minor modifications of the original ritualistic work became in time advisable, and another committee was then appointed. This comprised Prophets Leroy Fairchild, George Beale, W.C. Eaton, and J.F. Gregory. They removed some of the features that on later reflection and experience were considered undesirable. Some additions were made by this committee, and these proved most acceptable to the membership. These amendments left the ritual in a perfected form, which at once became practically permanent. No other alteration seemed advisable for a long period of time. Temporary and local as the organization may have appeared at the beginning, the success soon attained such proportions that a more formal handling of the growing institution brought forth need of a governing and organizing body of an efficient and modern type. May 28th, 1890, the Brethren of the Fairchild Deviltry Committee met and studied over the extension of the order. They unanimously resolved to establish a Supreme Council with sovereign power to extend and control affairs. Measures to that end were discussed and adopted. Thereby, the Supreme Council of the Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm was duly set in operation on Friday, June 13th, 1890, to carry systematically onward to Master Masons everywhere the fun and frolic of the grotto. At the meeting, when the Supreme Council was organized, there were 14 members present. Prophet Leroy Fairchild presiding, with Prophet Sidney D. Smith as secretary. The Constitution and statutes of the Supreme Council of the Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm were read and approved. Officers were elected as follows. Thomas L. James was the first Grand Monarch, New York City. Leroy Fairchild, Deputy Grand Monarch, Hamilton, New York. George H. Raymond, Grand Chief Justice, New York City. J.C. Terry, Grand Master of Ceremonies, St. Paul, Minnesota. William M. West, Grand Treasurer, Hamilton, New York. Sidney D. Smith, Grand Secretary, Hamilton, New York. Orrin Root, Grand Keeper of Archives, Clinton, New York. James Byron Murray, Grand Orator, Holborn, New York. U.C. Van Vleck, Trustee, Hamilton, New York. Aidan N. Smith, Trustee, Hamilton, New York. D.B. West, Trustee, Hamilton, New York. The remaining officers were filled by appointment of the following brethren. Thomas H. Beale, Grand Captain of the Guard, Hamilton, New York. J.F. Gregory, Grand Alchemist, Hamilton, New York. Samuel J. Todd, Standard Bearer, New Orleans, Louisiana. John Cunningham, Grand Marshal, Utica, New York. J.W. Clark, Grand Steward, Hamilton, New York. B.J. Stimson, Deputy Grand Chief Justice, Hamilton, New York. George Beale, Deputy Grand Master of Ceremonies, Hamilton, New York. These brethren were duly installed by Grand Chief Justice George H. Raymond, and the elected Grand Officers were empowered to complete the organization. A charter was granted to Druid Grotto No. 1 at Hamilton, New York, but this name was afterwards changed to Mokana Grotto at a meeting of the Supreme Council held on July 5th, 1890. An obligation presented by Prophet W.C. Eaton was formally adopted, and on his motion, the Deputy Grand Monarch, the Deputy Grand Chief Justice, and the Deputy Grand Master of Ceremonies were appointed a committee to receive and act upon reports submitted by various committees of the Supreme Council. After a banquet in the evening, the Supreme Council adjourned to the following afternoon of June 14, 1890, at 3 p.m., when Deputy Grand Monarch Leroy Fairchild installed Prophet Thomas L. James as Grand Monarch of the Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm. At this session, the seal and badge of the order was adopted. The turbans of the Veiled Prophets were by resolution at a later session of 1890 permitted to be of any color a grotto might select, but to be used with a silver veil. All turbans of the same grotto were to be alike as to color, but no purple was to be worn, except by members of the Supreme Council. The meeting of the Supreme Council, held at the Masonic Hall at Hamilton on June 11, 1891, was especially noteworthy because a dispensation for a second grotto was granted. This body received a charter at the Supreme Council meeting of June 9, 1892, as Khorasan Grotto No. 2, Ion, New York, and at the same session, a charter was issued to Zeba Grotto No. 4 at Rome, New York. Dispensation had previously been given in August 26, 1891, to Lala Rook Grotto No. 3 of Rochester, New York, and to Zeba Grotto. Lala Rook receiving their charter on June 27, 1893, at the first New York City meeting of the Supreme Council, when a charter was also issued to Mirzola Grotto No. 5 at Amsterdam, New York. Hiawatha Grotto No. 8 at Anoka, Minnesota, Azim Grotto No. 7 of New York City, and Shiraz Grotto No. 8 at Antwerp, New York, were granted dispensations at this session. Charters were given to these three bodies together with Zalika Grotto No. 9 at Kinderhook, New York, on June 14, 1894, at the annual meeting held in the old Scottish Rite Hall, New York City, when Prophet Aidan Smith was elected Grand Monarch, succeeding Prophet James, who had served from 1890 to 1893. Grand Monarch Smith was re-elected at the Supreme Council annual session from June 14, 1894 to October 31, 1899. He was also monarch of the handsomest grotto in the realm, Azim Grotto No. 7 of the Bronx, New York. A revision of the Constitution and statutes and a password were adopted at the New York City session of the Supreme Council on June 6, 1895. The genial founder and constant inspiration for the good fellowship of the grotto was Leroy Fairchild, who unfortunately passed at his home in Hamilton, New York, January 23, 1897. He was only 51 years old. He had continued in office as Deputy Grand Monarch from the institution of the Supreme Council up until his death. Prophet George F. Loder of Rochester, New York, was Grand Monarch in 1901 and 1902. He presided at the Buffalo session on October 19, 1900, of the Supreme Council. Grand Monarch Aidan D. Smith dying in his 65th year on June 13, 1900, the 10th anniversary of the organization of the Supreme Council. The Mystic Order of the Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm is the premier social order for Master Masons seeking good fellowship, and as such, all Master Masons in good standing are encouraged to petition. Mystical Order Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm, or Grotto, encourages renewed interest in the Symbolic Lodge and the study of its deeper esoteric teachings in a social and relaxed atmosphere. Though it makes no claim to be part of pure symbolic craft masonry, Mystical Order is the organization and alludes to our inner work, our spirituality, and their deeper study of ourselves and our world. The Veiled Prophet is the Mokana, whose face was veiled so his message could be heard without distraction. The Enchanted Realm is the world around us and teaches us that we are living beings living in a magical world filled with wonder, excitement, sadness, joy, darkness, and light. Members are now distinguished by a black fez with a red tassel, a Mokana head in the center. The monarch, or the CEO of the grotto, so to speak, wears a black fez with a purple tassel, while a Grand Monarch, the president of our order, wears a black fez with a gold tassel. All other elected Grand Line officers wear a black fez with a silver tassel. Appointed Grand Line officers and Supreme Council district deputies, etc., retain the purple tassel. For a few years, the Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm had no official emblem to wear. Word got around that the Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets were permitted to wear an emblem that set them apart from others, and a black fez head covering was selected, with a Mokana in the center, giving the name of the grotto. The minutes of a February 26, 1903 stated meeting of Azim Grotto in the Bronx, New York, states, Prophet Charles E. Lansing, past potent monarch, after some preliminary remarks, descriptive thereto, presented to those present a drawing in color of a headgear appropriate for the order. The same was received with favor, and by motion regularly made and seconded and carried. It was unanimously decided to adopt and wear them on serious and other appropriate occasions. In the minutes of October 29, 1903, it is recorded. The potent monarch reported that the fez worn by our members was, at the Supreme Council, the annual session of the Supreme Council, held in Hamilton, New York on October 20th, 1903, adopted as the official headgear for all prophets of the realm. The logo of the mystical order Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm is distinguished by a mokana. This emblem is unique among Masonic emblems and symbols. Mystical order Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm is guided by a philosophy that goes beyond simple enjoyment and celebration. This philosophy is deeply rooted in the concept of good fellowship, a principle that mirrors the essence of the Golden Rule. Good fellowship is more than just mutual respect and reciprocity. It represents a spirit of camaraderie, unity, and a shared joy. This philosophy encourages spiritual growth, a renewed love for life and for laughter, and a strengthened sense of optimism. It transforms ordinary experiences into moments of joy and fulfillment. While the grotto is often seen as a journey filled with joy, fun, and frolic, the grotto recognizes a solemn and serious motif beneath this surface of gaiety. This motif is not an abstract concept, but a tangible philosophy that shapes our actions and perceptions. As prophets of the grotto, individuals are encouraged to adopt this philosophy. It serves as a guiding light in their journey, leading them to find joy in shared experiences. Treat others with kindness and respect, and embrace life with laughter and optimism. Amidst the complexities of life, this philosophy serves as a reminder of the simple yet profound truth. Life is not just about fun and frolic. It's about learning, growing, and fostering good fellowship. Folks, I thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm off to White Plains Lodge now to give the Middle Chamber lecture, so I got a solid hour and change drive ahead of me. That's why I'm not wearing my grotto attire. I'm in a regular tuxedo. But I look forward to meeting all of you when I make my trip down south, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And thank you very much for your time, and God bless you all. In sympathy and good fellowship, your Grand Historian is out.